諸行無常 All things that arise are impermanent 皆さんおはようございます It sure is early Before I begin with my message, however, I'd like to apologize for missing the pitch in the Shoshinge Nembutsuge. The coffee that I had this morning was obviously stronger than I had intended it to be, and I got excited in the middle of it, and I raised the pitch a little bit too high in the middle there. So it was hard to follow at times. But in talking about the Shoshinge Nembutsuge, how many of you did not have to do the Shoshinge shuffle? And the Shoshinge, what I'm calling the Shoshinge shuffle is when you look at the book and you're chanting and you're thinking, oh, how much longer is this thing? And then you flip the pages to the back and you look towards the end and you're going, oh no, there's still so much more. And then you go back to finding where you are and you start chanting again and you're thinking, how much longer is this thing? And then you look back to the back and then you try to find your space back. So how many of you did not have to do that this time? Ooh, very good. So the people that did not raise their hands, you all did the Shoshinge shuffle then. Now, the passage that I quoted from is one of the fundamental lessons of all of Buddhism. This is the law of impermanence, which means that nothing that arises stays the same. And so, in chanting the Shoshinge Nembutsuge, hopefully, even if you did the Shoshinge shuffle, and even if you thought this thing never comes to an end, hopefully you were able to recognize and realize that it did. But what is especially important is the feeling, the heart that you had while chanting the Shoshinge Nembutsuge. This is what is important to pay attention to. If you're shuffling around and thinking how much longer is this thing, then we're missing a big part of what Shinran Shonin is trying to express in this poem, this verse that he wrote. This Shoshinge Nembutsuge talks to us about the legacy of the Nembutsu teaching, which means Shinran Shonin is telling us how we got to hear the Nembutsu in the first place. He begins by telling us that first there had to be Amida Buddha. This is the big Buddha, the main Buddha. This is the Buddha that gave rise to the 18th and primal vow, which the temple is named after, that says, I will save everyone. No ifs, ands, or buts. I will save everyone. And if I cannot, I will give up being a Buddha. And so the Buddha is saying, if I can't get you to be like me, then I will be like you. That's how much the Buddha cares for each and every one of us. That's how important every single life is to this Buddha. But this message is sometimes too big for us to understand. And so that's why Shakyamuni Buddha had to appear in this world to help us to understand what Amida Buddha was saying in the primal vow. But Shakyamuni Buddha, he passed away centuries ago. And some of his teachings were so profound that not everyone could understand it. And so Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu in India, then in order for it to get here, it had to go through a desert and enter into China, where Donnan, Doshaku, Zendo clarify the teachings to make us understand just how important Namo Amida Butsu really is. And then it had to cross the sea to get to Japan. Genshin, Genku, or Honen Shonin. And then finally to reach Shinran Shonin. But in order for it to come here, it had to cross the Pacific Ocean. In coming to America, the community, the Nembutsu community, had to overcome a war, had to overcome being imprisoned, had to overcome a lot of things just so that we can have this today. It is easy to take a lot of things for granted. And this is revealed when and if we do the Shoshin Nembutsuge shuffle. How much longer is this? But if those that we are following felt this way, we would never be able to hear Namu Amida Butsu, because they had to live and struggle with their lives and find meaning in that life through the Nembutsu. Otherwise, they would not have taken the time to share this teaching with us. Prior to service, I was having a conversation with some people talking about how old they are. And being 20 is different from being 30, which is different from being 40, which is different from being 50, which is different than 70, and so forth, and so on. And so this is the month of April. And when I was going to school, April was a very rough time. And the reason for that is because you just got off spring break, and that felt good. But you go back to school, and then you look at the clock, and you're thinking, how much longer until summer vacation? April, May, 4 more months? That's way too long. Then you get a little older, and then you go to college, and you're just getting off of spring break, and that felt good. But now you're getting close to finals, and then you're thinking, oh no, I should have studied more during spring break. There's not enough time for me to study as much as I should. But summer vacation is still so far away. And then you go to work. And then you start thinking things like, oh no, it's April already? And you think, we just had New Year's. How can it be April already? And the calendar pages seem to flip really, really fast. I'm not old enough to be retired yet, so I don't know what that feels like. But come back in 10, 15 years and I will tell you what I was able to experience being retired. And when you come back in 10, 15 years, you're going to think, yeah, what he said was exactly right. That's how time feels when you get older and older. But 1 second is 1 second. That has not changed. And yet the way that we feel time changes because we have changed. That's how important our hearts are. Depending on where our hearts are, the Shoshin Nembutsuge can seem long. Depending where our hearts are, the Shoshinge can be just right. Depending on where our hearts are, the Shoshinge can make us cry. Depending on where our hearts are, chanting the Shoshinge can help us to express our gratitude. Time does make things change, but it is up to each and every one of us to decide how this change is going to be received, how we use this changing nature of our lives, whether our hearts are opened up and we are helped to put a smile on our face, or whether the change of our heart moves us to frown, to put a scowl, to make us sad. Namu Amida Butsu is helping us to change our hearts, because our hearts too change. Change our hearts to be able to look around and to be able to say thank you, especially because we come to be aware of just how special this life of mine really is, and all the moments within that time. to be able to appreciate all the wonderful things that life has to offer, even when they are not easy. With this